top use cases for analytics?
Analytics is all about usage of data. And you mentioned prescriptive, descriptive, and generative. Actually, maybe 1.5 decades back, people used to look at trends and past, analyze data, and then based out of that, take decisions for the future. But now it's more and more insightful, and people look at how we would be in the future. So it's more of leading data, insightful data, and analysis of data into that. That's what is data analytics become. Now, of course, it's being connected to now AI, Gen AI, to be more and more predictive than what it used to be. And so you look at how 26 would look at, how 27 would look at, how 28 would look at. And I don't know how many of you know, there has been a Trump analysis. Although people say it's Joker Trump, we don't know, he speaks something in the morning and something in the evening, but that's not true. Whatever predictions have been, it's been true. And whatever the predictions, everything is happening as if it's an AI-driven Trump. So that's what is data analytics about.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Amit Thapliyal. I represent Magma General Insurance. So my definition of analytics is making sense of a data. That sense could be business sense. That sense could be a human sense. In the corporate world or in the business world, analytics is becoming more and more important because other than the human intelligence that traditionally we've been using for decades, with this vast data democratization that has happened, which is not humanly possible, this subject or this domain has picked up. And this domain or this subject is actually helping organizations and businesses to go through this data, make sense of that data, and take whatever business decisions that they want. That's my lens of analytics.
For me, analytics should be an outcome driven. If you're doing any analytics, connecting the dots, you're able to come up with any story. That story, whether it is AI model, ML model, generative AI, it should either hit the core KPI of your organization. It should either impact your top line, bottom line. If none of this, at least it should bring an operational excellence. If you are doing nothing out of this, then this analytics is just आप अपने शौक पूरा कर रहे हैं.
Got it. Thank you. Arjun.
Yeah, to me, analytics, particularly in insurance, it's about insurance about risk management into multiple lines of business, and it's all about measurement and modeling of risk. Okay, and we keep hearing the word rocket science many times. Okay, so rocket science, if you really look deeply, insurance is one of the areas where really rocket science level of modeling, actuarial modeling happens. Yeah. But how much can be done is limited by the availability of data and your ability to model them from a domain perspective. Okay. So we see that the global reinsurers are processing centuries of climate data for natural disaster related insurance. Next comes probably life insurance, where you have morbidity and mortality data available. So fire also there is a lot. But the new lines of business, we have to replicate that. Okay. And in that morning we talked about EV vehicles. No, that also we are limited by our ability to measure it and model it. Okay. And so each line gives rise to a new specialization of actuaries. So one of my observations where I'm participating also is cyber-related analytics and cyber-related insurance. Okay, so that's going to be a frontier in the coming days.
Thank you, and we'll maybe double-click into cyber in a bit. But Nikesh, coming to you, right? In terms of
I meant cyber as a line of insurance. Okay.
Absolutely. So Nikesh, what do you see as the role of AI and analytics in completely reimagining how underwriting is done today? There are new sources of data that have emerged. I think Arjun also spoke to some of those. But how are we pushing the envelope? Because our morbidity, mortality tables are broadly the same, right? On the life side. On the general side, obviously, you have a lot more data that's coming in, but obviously impacts health somewhere. How do you see underwriting getting transformed using AI?
If you look at insurance, insurance is the business of risk. And underwriters helps us a lot how to underwrite the profitable risk. And their analytics play a very critical role. And if you look at all the traditional underwritings, they use, if you're talking about a motor insurance, we use asset level intelligence as a traditional method of assessing what the risk associated with that vehicle. But with new age of data coming into the picture like telematic data, in case of health insurance underwriter, when we are getting data from your smartwatches, it's telling me a data in every 15 minutes. What is your SpO2, what is your heart rate? And also it is calculating your lifestyle factor like your sleeping pattern, how many calories you are taking, what is the steps you are taking. Then apart from that, there are a lot of drone technologies are there, which are giving me a lot of aerial pictures, particularly in the area of agriculture underwriter, where we are getting a lot of satellite image. And then apart from that, there are a lot of IoT. If you look at today, we are talking about 50 billion IoT devices deployed across the world, which are going to be the 50 billion by 2030. It means every second we are generating some data. And how we are leveraging those data to make sure that we are able to calculate the precise risk before we underwrite that policy for a customer. And hence, I see this novel data is empowering us to take better decisions, which was not possible earlier due to the limitations of data, and also compute power has gone 100x, and the cost has gone 10x down. It means we have compute data, we have all things available on our plate. It's all about how we are cooking up our recipes so that we can become more and more risk-averse company.
Nikesh, in spirit of the provocation to me around going deeper into use cases, what are maybe one or two use cases that you want to implement but are currently unable to implement because of want of data?
I think one of the use cases we should definitely implement is your telematic. Like if you are talking about a motor insurance, we should, right now it is the asset. We always insure the vehicle. But person who is driving is the more important, the way he is driving. And hence, if you look at most of the cars are connecting with the connected intelligence. They are generating billions of data over the way you drive, the way you put in breaker, the way all these sensors are connected, even this audio OS, which is a part of all the new age coming, ADAS and all. How do we leverage this data to understand how to put that driving behavior is one of the parameters? And based on the parameters, you judge what is the risk associated with this vehicle. Just not looking at the vanilla, how this car is performed in the past. The new age technology like electrical vehicles which are coming, the battery. How do you measure the battery sensor data? How do the battery performance and all those things? And how do you incorporate all this data, which is not traditionally available to us, and create a very beautiful AI-driven framework, which takes all this data and give you a calculated risk, which says it is good and risk is worthy enough for you to underwrite.
Got it. Wonderful. Amit, maybe I'll come to you. I think this discussion would be amiss if we don't talk about generative AI, right? It's the new kid on the block. And different organizations are trying to implement it in different use cases. Where have you seen the highest success, both from an outcome standpoint as well as from a business case standpoint for generative AI in some of the experiments that you may have run or even exit to scales that you may have done with those use cases?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So basically when I look at it from my lens, these are new terminologies. Analytics started some 40-50 years back. People didn't identify it as an analytics. But what has happened is, and specifically from an India context perspective in insurance, and thanks to the government of India for having the open architecture, we now have the open frameworks of Aadhaar, NHCX, CKYC, CERSAI, so many of them. Now what has happened is, it has powered the authenticity of the data. So earlier, one of the bigger challenges of the industry was data was there, but it was not authenticated. But with all these India stack open frameworks, now these are authenticated data. Now what happens to an insurer? It's a very big boon for both the manufacturer, distributor, and in the end, the customer. When you have authenticated source data, your level of analytics does not start from the ground, it goes to the next level, where you know that the data is structured, it is authenticated, and from an underwriting and risk perspective, the philosophies that typical insurers were applying around 20 years back has completely changed. No one thought around 2 decades back that insurance can get into real-time pricing. Insurers can get into real-time analytics of claims, real-time analytics of fraud. But with all these authenticated data, definitely this analytics has gone way above. Now specifically coming to Gen AI. So Gen AI is nothing else but an analytics which probably now thinks more than a human mind. So your earlier analytics was limited to the intelligence of human mind. The Gen AI is an analytics which surpasses the human intelligence at a much faster pace than humans can think. And that's where Gen AI comes in picture. Now Gen AI also comes with its own drawbacks, and those drawbacks are nothing else but if you don't ethically use that Gen AI. Specific use cases in insurance that at least I have seen in the past, I think the immediate use cases that the industry has experienced is real-time detection of fraud pin codes, real-time detection of images, real-time detection of inspections of vehicle. We used to have a very big challenge in the insurance industry where while doing the inspection, the photograph was of a different car, but during the claim the car was different. But with the real-time Gen AI analytics, the algorithms actually on real-time detects whether this car, which is getting self-inspected from left, right, center, top, front, bottom, is it the same location, same place or not? So that's where the Gen AI part is coming in place. Now, when we talk about Gen AI is just a terminology. The actual backend is nothing else but the LLMs, the large language models, which is very complicated, by the way. We don't understand large language models because typical LLM takes decades to actually put into perspectives. So at least my advice or my experience on these Gen AIs is very clear that we have to be really careful as insurer. We have a lot of social responsibility. So before we actually put Gen AI models to service our customers, we need to be 100% sure enough tested before this moves into production. So that's my perspective of Gen AI.
Do you see the cost of Gen AI, the way it's currently set up in terms of LLMs and the compute, and do you see the cost-benefit analysis playing out in any typical use cases, or are we a little far away from industrialization of these use cases?
No, there are some use cases in the insurance, at least the health claims use a lot of these analytics and Gen AI, depending on the hospital, the patient, the age, the demographics, the doctor, the medical prescription, you get 90-95% accurate results. So that's a proven model in the insurance industries. In the motor line of business, yes, Gen AI, as I said, the inspection, the car damage philosophy. Like typically I remember days when typically if your car met with an accident, a surveyor will come after 2 days, then he will go back, then the garage will go. After 5 days you get a quote, and on the 6th day is where you realize what is the damage. As against in today's world, with all these Gen AI, you hit the car, you just open your mobile app, which is an embedded Gen AI. You just scan it, and in next 5 seconds, you have a clear estimated, because at the back, the OEM's price list, the nearest garage, the authorized service center, everything is already modeled. So yes, there are very successful use cases, and use cases will keep on coming. 2 of them is very proven, the motor and the health. The other models will evolve.
Thank you. So that maybe coming to you in terms of data and the use of data. Both Nikesh and Amit spoke about how a lot of data gets generated. You have the API economy through which you can access a lot of information. In a post-DPDP world where it gets implemented and ratified, and insurance companies and financial institutions at large are held accountable, how do you see the entire consent architecture playing out? How do you see insurers' ability to run analytics on legacy data on being able to capture, retain, and then meaningfully come back to customer with either new experiences, more customized pricing, etc., etc.
Yeah, it's a challenge, actually. So, in the DPDP, the consent that you seek should be expressive, understandable, user-friendly, and separate. Now, I used to seek consent, by the way. I used to have a paragraph in the app form, and in that paragraph, I used to say, seek a consent of the customer that I have a right to get his data and analyze data and all that. But it was not expressive and simple and specific. I don't know whether customer has read that also, because they just signed the form. So definitely the ruling was that you can't rely on the form signature. Although even customer signs each page of the form, you still can't rely on that. So then how do you seek separate consent? So you need a separate consent agreement from the customer. And you will have to also inform the customer or seek customer's consent to keep the data. If the customer says, no, delete the data, then you have a problem in hand. How do you deal with the regulatory requirement and how do you deal with customer's requirement? Whether the regulatory requirement would override customer's requirement, it's dubious, but actually yes. So that's what the regulator has to clarify. Those clarifications haven't come out yet. Even DPDP rules haven't come out yet. So you're supposed to inform the customer at every stage of sharing the customer's data with doctors, customer's data with lawyers, customer data with hospitals, customer data with investigating agencies, customer data with printers, why, what, how. And every stage you need to inform the customer, send SMS or a email or a portal or all. So that customer is understood clearly the data related to customer is being shared, for what purpose and why. And also customer has acceded to that request. Supposing customer says no, let us come back to the customer saying no, this is a regulatory piece, I can't obey your instruction versus the regulatory requirement. So you have a problem there also. And so this would be the challenge and this would be the way to treat that. And in life insurance, customer data is very, very important. You not only need KYC, you not only need photograph, address, and PAN card data, you also need Aadhaar, you also need bank statement analysis to do need analysis, because customer is supposed to pay premium for 8 years or 7 years, then only you make money, typically in a life insurance product. And also health data of the customer, where it is required. Otherwise, you rely on declarations of the customer of good health below a certain value. That is based on company's underwriting policy again. I remember when I launched this in 2011, we luckily had a SaaS for sales diagnostics, customer diagnostics, geographical diagnostics, because we were a large company with lots of branches, 1,000 branches those days, now 745 or 750. And we need to know how customer behaves in every corner, because the fraud racketeers were all over the country. There were 180 odd locations known to the world, industrial world or insurance world. But there are fraud racketeers here.
Yeah.
You know, Bhavnagar, Kubinagar, Jamnagar, Hongol, Warangal, Jalandhar. Everybody knows the data is same. I've spoken to LIC, spoken to all the companies informally. And based on that, I said, let me cancel the policy. And of course, there was a dread in the company saying, Sunder, you can't do that. Nobody does cancellation of policy. But we were burning in many pockets of the data, geographical and also income status. We were at 180%, 300%, 200%. When I say 180, the actuarial data would say 100 people need to die, but really 180 people would die. And so 180 by 100, we are overpriced, 300 is 3 times more than what I predicted.
Yeah.
Depending on pockets again. Overall you make a profit, but you will have these fraud potentials. So I said, let me cancel the policy because I've written the statement. Luckily I was a legal guy also. So I said I had put a clause in the policy document saying, in the event you submit false information knowingly, we have every right to cancel the policy. And we had asked very specific questions about disease. We have asked very specific questions about hospitalization, which was answered, no hospitalization, no disease, every perfect health, etc., etc. But here we have case histories of the patient saying that he has this disease. And I can very well go against the customer saying you specifically said no. And we've also done a call to the customer to confirm that he has understood the form. Yet, customer has answered it wrongly, perhaps. Knowingly, unknowingly, we don't know, because many times it's a push business, so we don't know if salesman has answered the questions in the proposal form and customer has merely signed off, or actually customer has understood and signed off. So we ask questions, we do a call. And so, the first challenge was within the company itself. Nobody agreed with me. Only the CEO was supportive, luckily, because he could see the damage done. And I said, look, if you have a problem, let's check with the regulator. So 2011-12, we checked with the regulator, IRDA. IRDA was supportive, saying, of course, we should go against the fraudsters when you know it's a fraud. And we are fully with you. And we started this color-based scoring. So the colors were dark, where the customer doesn't exist at all, or it's a dead man customer. The guy is already dead and they take an insurance policy. So this is a straight case, you cancel the policy, which is downright utter fraud. Second case were things like cancer, life-threatening disease. There is a patient report, hospitalization report, and yet customer says he's of good health, he or she. When we do a call also, it's confirmed. And then that was red, but we used to still cancel the policy. But there was amber groups also, where customer has BP problems, which the customer has hidden and said good health. There we give back the data to sales guys. You confirm and come back. And the joke is the same sales guys who used to object. There was only 1 in 100 who would come back. 99 used to agree with us, because the data is all there. And then we had low risk, where we live with the risk, where underwriting says, okay, I'll charge much more, because it's an ordinary case of BP or this, but not a hyperactive case. And then we had low risk cases, green, which straight away goes. So this we used to run for 3 years, 2011, 12 to 14. And believe me, I used to spend 50-60 lakhs additional investigation costs. Investigation costs are not much. 350 rupees around those days for background checks. And if you get hospital data, it's slightly more. 750 rupees, 100 rupees, 1000 rupees, depending on the area. Still worth. Because of course I cannot investigate all the cases. If I investigate all the cases, I will go bankrupt. I can only investigate 3%, 4% of the cases. But we were smart. The analytics, SAS analytics used to give a regression and used to give a probability for fraud.
But Sundar, maybe let me double click on that one, right? In a post-TPTB world, recognizing that regulation is not very clear right now, and your ability to keep data with or without consent and create those regression models of customers for whom policies you may have rejected, what you need
to do is seek consent separately, consent agreement. Not only that, call up the customer, put it in portal, put it in website, send SMS, ensure your customer is really consented by all these means.
So yeah, the cost of analytics is going to go up then, because you really have to.
Of course,
you have to really push.
You need to have a consent form.
Yeah.
If you're in the physical world, you need to have a consent app form along with app form. But you will have to do that. There is no choice.
Got it. Yeah.
And believe me, the results were great. So the 50-60 lakhs additional cost that I spent, I used to save about 60 crores of sum assured fraud every year. And then law changed. Section 45 got amended. They said they will give you only 3 years. And we had to change the model to 3 years. After 3 years, we don't do all this. So we'll have to do it beforehand. And so things were challenging, but we did achieve. Now, when I did, what I did was 8 questions based on experience. which were changed to something like 35 questions when the analytics was run, SAS. Now we have an analytics department which gives you more questions, and it's all done beforehand. So that's the advantage.
Thank you.
I'll just answer to your specific question. Post the DPDP, once the act gets enforced, what are the challenges that we envisage? So one good thing is definitely from a customer lens perspective, your data now has a framework via which you can secure your data. And the DPDP Act has specific sections for children's, specific section for consent. So definitely it will be a very matured data exchange world that we will start seeing. Now, what could be the challenges for it? The challenges for it is, one, the power of that data to be used in what sense now lies with the customers. Having said that, is it that the industry will lose the data? The answer is no. Where customers have given consent, you will continue doing what you are doing. But where customer does not give a consent, there are ways of getting the data anonymized and use the data from a modeling perspective. So, and we are humans, right? With every new benchmark or every new hurdle, we will find our way to get the work done. So I think there's a lot of unknowns that the industry will face, but humans are humans, we'll figure out something.
Find a way out of it, yeah.
There's one more challenge. The ID of customer has to be different for DPDP. You have to pseudomize the data. That's another challenge in the data world.
Arjun, maybe a question. Sorry.
Yeah, even with DPDP Act, if we are able to convince our customer, this is whatever analysis we are doing, we are putting their interest on the center of the analytics. What the customer is worrying about, my data should be not used for the aggressive selling, but about be used, turn out the table and we say it is for your betterment. I hope the customer will give me a consent, isn't it? If today I am giving a consent to the Apple Watch that you should track my heart rate, what is the purpose of that? To a preventive, to avoid a heart attack because it will give me an alert. Hence I am able to share that data because he told me that I am going to help you to avoid your heart attack. Can we create similar kind of scenario in insurance industry? Rather than we simply say we are in the business of selling the policies and paying you the claim. We'll say we'll use your data and we'll become part of your value chain where we say we become a preventive partner. We will understand your data, we'll start with suggesting what lifestyle has to be changed so that you don't fall sick, you don't make a road accident. Hence customer will say that my data is being used in the positive way. Hence I should give a consent to the company.
Coming back to your question on cost, a very interesting insight. The more generative you are and consent seeking, better is the data, quality of data. Actually, long-term cost would be probably lower.
Thank you. Arjun, you spoke briefly about cyber earlier, right? We are looking as a line of business, cyber insurance as a line of business. We're obviously living in a world with increased instances of cyber attack. There's a lot more organizations that are at risk. How are you visualizing analytics and AI playing out in cyber insurance? What are maybe some use cases that you've really seen become a lot more prevalent and mainstream, either on the preventative side or on the underwriting side as you're looking at cyber insurance?
Yeah, so most of the assets which are being insured could be, take industrial assets, automobile, all are becoming intelligent, the electronics. So the underwriting is moving from a pure physical to cyber physical. So, as he told, IoT is generating a lot of dynamic data, but we have to capture them into the insurance part of it. And cyber, not only is the asset side, you have cyber liabilities also. You have to quantify various layers of the asset and the liability. So, cyber insurance will be one area where advanced analytics, threat intelligence, all these have to be captured to assess the insurability and the pricing of that. And similarly for the claims also.
I know I'm told we're running a little short on time, so maybe a fun question for the group here. What's the analytics or AI use case that you've seen in your personal life, right? Whether it's a consumer-facing app, whether it's your banking, where you order your food from, your ride-hailing, whatever, right? What's an interesting AI use case that you would want to inherit into the insurance sector from your various other walks of life?
See, one immediate thing that I recollect is, and that's really an excellent intelligence that at least the Android guys have built. You speak to someone on some subject, in next 24 hours, you have a news article coming in your news line. You talk about vacation, the next day morning you open your news and you'll have n number of ads which is all around vacation. So that's a very intelligent way of picking up things, contextual intelligence it is called. So that's a very excellent one. Probably, will it have a use case in insurance? The answer is yes, because there are enough models via which when you are too close to a customer and you're tracking the customer very closely, you can link 1 + 1 + 1. So if a guy just gets married, probably you know what could be the next insurance that he's looking at. When he's buying a house, you know what is the next insurance that he's looking at. When his kids are about to get graduated, you know what is the next insurance that he can be looking. So there are enough models that can be applied, but yes, definitely it requires a lot of investments, it requires a lot of data, and in the end it requires a lot of patience also to build something like this.
Thank you. Nikesh? Arjun?
I see one of the very impactful the retail is in the investment, stock market investments. No, see what was earlier limited to institutional investors is now even individuals are getting empowered by that. And 2 days back, even SEBI has come with saying that even at a broker or a advisor level, you are using AI for investment. You are responsible for that. So it's getting percolated to the retail.
So I used to stay in Bangalore, and you know Bangalore is famous for traffic. And I used to commute from my home to office, and Google could sense of that. This is my particular time on which I travel, and it started giving an advice on the real time. What is the right time to start so that you can reach your home little earlier, giving advice on the traffic. And how it is related to the insurance? Suppose that you are going to the airport. If you know Bangalore airport, it is not in the Bangalore at all. It is in a different district altogether, 20 kilometers away. And there we are insuring our customer. On a parametric, if you delay the flights, we'll pay for it. What if I integrate that data and instead that Google has suggested you, this is your start time, since you don't aware that, and hence your flight got cancelled and flight got delayed, it means you are the restless guys, and that helps a lot of this thing prevented, because people what they do, they want to cancel the flights, they will go delay, they will cancel that, they will first put a delay penalty and they will cancel the flights. And both way, the leakage is happening, he is making profit. So that's one use case.
Sunder?
I think when I used to go to a shopping mall, and moment I go there, you have questions for what to chop, what. So they have already studied the pattern, and iteratively, it's more and more what you're looking for that comes as questions now. So that's the kind of research that's already done. Be more behavioral based.
Yeah.
What you spend, how much you spend, where you shop, what you shop. Yeah.
It can identify the moments that matter where you're likely to buy.
Again, depends on how much, what you Google and.
Of course. Yeah. I think there are organizations out there that probably know a lot more about us than we know about ourselves. Correct. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody in the audience as well.
My question is divided into two parts. First one is that there are certain RTOs in the country which are blacklisted by the private sector general insurance companies. If you are using AI and analytics so much, how can you blacklist the whole RTO? It's totally unfair. Second is that a client had apartment in Shimla, Mashobra, which was to be insured. And when we went to the insurance company, incidentally, Bajaj Allianz, after taking the data and all that thing, they said that the whole of Himachal Pradesh is not to be covered by us because it has catastrophic risk. Don't do this type of thing. The client was from Indonesia, he's NRI. The building is very well designed, it's a gated community. And don't push this type of high-headed decision making from head office to the branches or to the salespersons, it is affecting your image.
You're absolutely right, sir. As I said, the traditional business was based on our conventional wisdom. With the AI, we are trying to mitigate all those biases. I think in the future, you won't see any of these things are happening because even in the RTO, there are certain pocket of the customer which are going to be profitable with us, and we are identifying those cohort of the customers who are profitable within the blocked RTO with the help of AI. So we are removing all those sort of biases from our data, and hence we will see in the future nothing of that sort is happening.
I think, Sureshji, you have identified the ultimate use case for AI.
No, so I'll just elaborate. It's a very important question and a very important feedback also. See, I'll tell you why it is happening. So, what has happened? Whatever analytics happens, it happens on data. One of the challenges of generative AI is what? It relies on data, which was earlier based on discrimination and biased behaviors. Now, what happens is, these analytical data, and probably if a particular to your first question, why are specific RTOs blacklisted, the data suggests that vehicles which got insured from this particular RTO and specific segments did not have good loss ratios, and no businesses will try to enter a business where the loss ratios are even more than what the premium gets collected. But yes, the moment generative AI comes, one of the challenges or one of the way generative AI can be put into the right perspective is all these earlier biased and discriminative decisions that was taken via the human in loop. So there is a concept of generative AI which is called human in loop. So what is human in loop? You look at your old data, पुरानी गलतियों को आप देखते हो, उसको नए लेंस लगाते हो और फिर बोलते हो नहीं, probably back. Those days, that lens was not with the human eye. In today's world, maybe 20 years back, the vehicles, the road infrastructure was not that good in that RTO, and that's the reason you had more of those accidents. But with the generative AI, given in the last 10 years, 15 years, the infrastructure quality has improved. That lens is where the generative AI will come, and those human in loop decisions will correct all the earlier biased decisions. And again, it's a transition. It will not happen overnight.
And one more thing, sir. Earlier, there was no concept of called bias in the data. Today, with a lot of tools and matrices available to us, we are measuring our data, not only in terms of the how is data field rate, quality, usability, also bias. And when we build a model, how fair the model is going to be for the customer. Nobody should get marginalized in our model. And this is what we are setting the whole AI governance in a practice. The whole model will get audited every quarter on three things. One is fairness, transparency, and accountability. And there will be a redressal committee if the model is doing unfair to somebody else, which is marginalized like you are getting penalized, the model will have to redressal through a right corrections of the data and through the bias mitigation. So I think those things are upcoming technology. And those things will get implemented once the strong AI governance will come into the place, the way RBI has done for the NBFC. Similar things will definitely come for the insurance industry very soon.
Very good. For the information of all of you, there are certain districts in northeastern states where life insurance policy is not issued. They are blacklisted states. This is what is in 2025 the status of our insurance industry. The whole state is blacklisted for life insurance. Hope someone will take up these issues with the ministry, with the regulator, with Life Insurance Council, and come up with better decision making.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Sureshji, for highlighting